Shalom, shalom, everybody. Welcome back to another Pulse of Israel episode here in our ancestral homeland. Today, as you can see, I'm on a break in between shifts during my IDF reserve duty. I'm still here with my gun. Right? You have to be with it at all times when you have it. But we woke up this morning to horrific news in the war, where 21 IDF soldiers were killed yesterday. We actually knew already last night that something happened, that a tragedy happened, but the details weren't released until this morning. As of now, 10 of the names have been publicized and released, and we're still waiting to find out about the other 11. At least I haven't heard about the other 11 yet. But everything in Israel is one degree of separation. As of now, I don't know anyone personally, but the brother of a neighbor is one of the holy IDF soldiers that was killed in the tragedy yesterday. And again, there are a couple of different angles to take on this tragedy. First of all, the Jewish people in Israel today are devastated. To lose 21 holy soldiers in one day is really, really hard. I mean, we are at war, and every day soldiers are lost because we're at war against an enemy, against an evil enemy, against an evil enemy that kidnaps children and rapes women and beheads toddlers, right? We're against an evil enemy that uses psychological manipulation to manipulate the Israeli public to go against our own desire and need to defend ourselves and want to pay any price or any price to release the captives. But they're evil. They're torturing them. Of course we want to release them, but they're using psychological manipulation on the Israeli public. This is our evil enemy. So yes, we're at war, and yes, we're going to lose soldiers when we're at war. And believe it or not, knowing that Hamas is one of many enemies that we have within us and around us, and we're only fighting Hamas fully right now, even though we're fighting Hezbollah up north. And again, understand, Hezbollah, Hamas, they are all proxies of Iran, like the Houthis of Yemen. Iran has proxies all over the Middle East, that they're all ready to fight Israel. So right now Hamas is, and Hezbollah is on a low flame, but it's Iran behind this all. The fact that on a given basis, on a daily basis, we're only losing a few soldiers, considering we're at war, we could be losing so much more. And all of a sudden when we lose 21 in one day, it's a huge shock. But again, the Jewish people are strong. We're much stronger than our leadership, much stronger than our military and intelligence leadership. We're stronger than our political leadership. And they're under all these pressures, global pressures, geopolitical pressures. The Jewish people want to win this so that we never have to deal with this evil ever again, so that our families on the south and our families up north can return home and never have to fear about ever being hit by a rocket or surprised by terrorists infiltrating their communities. So the Jewish people want to end this. The soldiers on the ground want to end this. But our leadership is weak. And as I keep on telling you day in and day out, we are going to win this because the Jewish people are not going to let our leaders stop us from winning this totally. So that's on the one side. The other side is these 21 holy soldiers. They were killed because they were involved in the demolition of a building. And as they were involved in the demolition of the building, a Hamas terrorist shot an RPG, whether at a tank or at the building, whatever it is. Again, details are not totally clear, but from the details that did come out already, was that then led to the explosion of the building they were preparing or had prepared to explode. and the soldiers were still in that building. So the Hamas terrorist, by shooting the RPG and taking down the tank or the building, then led to the explosion that had the building fall on our 21 holy IDF soldiers. Or all of them were fallen underneath, or some of them were part of the rescue mission. Don't know. But this brings up another point. And I don't know whether this is specific to this building, but it is specific to our situation in fighting this war. You might be seeing a lot of the videos of IDF forces blowing up buildings and even areas and communities in Gaza. And on the one hand, even when I see these videos, I'm like, amazing, that's great. They have a price to pay. You massacred us, you pay a price. Your homes, your communities are being destroyed. You want a good life? Go find a good life elsewhere, not near us, where we know you want to massacre us, and where we know that the innocent civilians are not innocent, because every house in Gaza knew about tunnels being built below their houses, and every house had either weapons or materials or something supportive of Hamas efforts to murder Jews. Every house the soldiers are finding has stuff that shows their support for murdering Jews. There are no innocent civilians in Gaza, but still we try not to hurt them. But you want to have a good life, you civilians left in Gaza? Well, go other places, to places that agree with your genocidal, sick Islamic ideas of jihad and killing the infidel and killing the Jews and destroying the Jewish state of Israel. Don't live with us. So yes, I am happy when I see the homes and communities being destroyed by our demolition squads, because that's the price you pay by killing us and massacring us and taking on the chosen people of God. And again, we're not chosen because we're better. We're chosen to have a purpose, and that purpose is to spread monotheism to the world. So understand that. But at the same time, while I'm feeling happy that these homes and communities are being destroyed by our demolition squads, understand they're not being destroyed from the air. We are endangering our soldiers by sending in demolition squads. Right? Understand that. So there are two main reasons why the Israeli army is not using as much air power to destroy the homes and communities. Number one, because the U.S. has basically pressured Israel and our Israeli defense forces to only use precision missiles to kill individual terrorists. So the IDF is withholding air power when it's not necessary in killing in precision strikes of buildings that will take out terrorists. That's number one. So international pressure, United States pressure, immoral pressure is stopping us from using our air power like we're supposed to. The second reason we're not using our air power as much as we should and endangering our IDF soldiers is because the Israeli army does not know if and when the U.S. will stop giving us the bombs we need. So the IDF and the Air Force are trying to save as many missiles as possible for the war with Lebanon. That will happen. You hear that? We don't know how many weapons we're going to have, how many missiles we're going to have to fight in Lebanon, because at any day America can stop sending us those needed missiles, because we are reliant on America. And that's a pressure point that the Biden administration has over us. They're like, okay, you want to do that? Well, we're not helping you. So we have to save our missiles wisely to be able to use for a potential war that will break out in one day with Lebanon, and not use them as much in Gaza. And instead, we endanger our soldiers to go do the work of demolition where they endanger their lives. This is an insane situation. It's an insane situation. Now, on top of that, again, I'm going to go into more detailed videos of going through all the levels of our geopolitical challenges. But now that you understand the geopolitical road bomb, right, that is literally placed in front of us, that's making us endanger our own soldiers' lives, then we have the weakness of our own military leadership. The heads of the army and the intelligence who led to October 7th. It's their 30 years of weakness, their 30 years of being brainwashed by Harvard University progressive values that we don't have any more enemies, that we're never going to have a ground war again, that we have to look after the civilian population more than look of the enemy, more than protecting our civilians. Like, this is the progressive brainwashing. The liberal progressive brainwashing that has brainwashed our upper echelons of the army for years, right? 30 years. And it's those same upper echelons and retired who they were in the news for the last year before the war, calling on soldiers to disobey orders because Netanyahu and his government are more dangerous than Hamas. Yes, they use those exact words, that Netanyahu is more dangerous than Hamas, therefore calling soldiers and pilots to not serve in the IDF. So that's the upper echelon of the IDF. They're the ones who were, again, they spoke out being retired. And they're the ones still today calling on Israel to stop the war, for there to be new elections, because Bibi's at fault for everything, and that we can't win this war. Retired IDF chiefs of staffs, right, including the one who's part of the war cabinet, Gadi Eisenstock. He's part of the war cabinet, together with Netanyahu, Gallant, and Benny Gantz. He's with Benny Gantz's party, and he was just interviewed on Israeli television last week saying Israel can't win this war. We can't beat Hamas. That guy was the IDF chief of staff. What kind of chief of staff does not have faith in his army to win a war? And this isn't a war against Iran. This isn't a war against Hezbollah. This isn't a war against Egypt or Jordan. This is a war against Hamas, one little terror organization. If he, a former chief of staff, and now part of the war cabinet, right? He's the one making decisions what we should and shouldn't be doing in this war. And he is publicly saying we have to surrender to Hamas because we can't win. You see the weakness? The weakness, not just in military leadership, because to be the leader of the army, a former leader of the army, current member of the war cabinet, and to talk about surrender to an evil enemy that's a little terror group, it's only one proxy of a whole Iranian octopus of terror organizations out there to destroy us, doesn't have a whole army like with an air force and tanks like Egypt or like Jordan, or even a whole militia like Hezbollah. It's like the smallest and weakest of all of our enemies. And this former chief of staff is on Israeli television telling the Israeli people, oh, we can't win, we have to surrender. That's the only way we're going to get the hostages back. And the sickness of misreading our enemy, right? If you have to beat an enemy, you have to understand the enemy, right? Hamas's strategy is to take hostages. They know that's a weak point in the Jewish society of Israel, because in Judaism, one of the highest commandments is to free prisoners, right? That's one of the highest commandments for the Jewish people from the Torah. They know how weak we are because we're a moral people of wanting to free those of us who are taken captive. So part of the war strategy is to take captives. And yet you have former chiefs of staffs and other high generals in the army saying, oh, we have to end this war so that we have to surrender in order to bring the hostages back. That doesn't end the war. End the war is to get rid of Hamas. End the war is to end the evil that exists in the Gaza Strip. That ends the war. They're using the captives to make us end the war without ending the war. And here you have chiefs of staffs, former chiefs of staffs, people on the war cabinet, basically calling for Israel to surrender, totally misreading or intentionally misreading the motivations and the strategy of our enemy. So again, I'm giving you the positive now. The positive is, and I tell you this day after day, we are going to win this war till the end, despite our leadership at the top, despite our weak, immoral leadership at the top, who've been running our intelligence and army for over 30 years. Since Oslo basically killed our army and intelligence leadership. We're going to win because the soldiers on the ground. The soldiers on the ground understand the only way we will win this war is by Israel remaining in the Gaza Strip. The soldiers on the ground are there to win and risk their lives to ensure that we provide the proper security for all of Israel and all Israeli citizens. And that means staying there. That means we conquer an area, we liberate the area from the evil Hamas, and we stay in the area. And the only way, and this is Amir Avivi, the head of the Bitchonistim organization, who said straight out in a Knesset hearing, I was there and I heard it with my own ears, he goes, the world already knows from experience that leaving military alone without a civilian population means that in the end the military will have to leave. There will be deaths, and public pressure will make the military leave. What happened with America and Iraq, America and Afghanistan. If you only leave a military presence and little by little they are killed off, you end up running away. The only way to ensure safety and security in an area is by a civilian presence with a military presence, then to provide the overall security. So the only way we're going to be able to provide security to all of Israel, and the soldiers on the ground know this, is once you clear out a city in Gaza and you have them move south, then we move in, and we move in Israeli civilians to live there as soon as all the terror and all the booby-trap buildings and booby-trap dungeon tunnels underground are gotten rid of. The army stays there, then civilians come in. That's how we win. That's how we provide security. You're not going to hear that from any general in the army, because they are all neutered. They are all weak and progressively immoral, unable to provide security to Israel. They should have all resigned on October 8th, because it's their failure of October 7th. And if not resigned, they should have all been fired on October 8th for dereliction of duty. They had all the intelligence, and they didn't raise the intelligence to the government or the prime minister. They, in a sense, they let it happen without allowing the government to know about it, to give them orders of what to do. They should all have been fired, if not resigned, on October 8th. Yet these are still the people running the war, and the retired ones who are responsible for 30 years of dereliction of duty are the ones on television every single night telling the Israeli people that we have to surrender to this evil and that we can't win it. It's sad. But again, I'm optimistic, folks. I'm optimistic because I've been telling you for years, we have to stop trusting the upper echelons of leadership, because they're not leaders. They're followers following whatever immoral, progressive flavor of the day that's coming from all this other pressures that's pressuring them. They're not leaders. We, the people on the ground, the Jewish people on the ground, the fighting soldiers on the ground, we are the leaders. And it's us that we're going to push forward and make sure this war doesn't end until it's over. With all Israelis down south able to move back to their homes, and all Israelis up north able to move back to their homes, without any fear that any rockets or any terror will ever affect them again. That's when the war ends, and it's only going to happen when we remain in the Gaza Strip with military and civilian presence. That day will happen despite the weakness of our leadership. In the meantime, we cry and we scream out for all of the holy IDF soldiers who were losing in the process, as the leaders on top are unable to lead us. But the people, we're going to push forward and win this. How are we going to overcome? Well, because since the orders come from on top, it's a good question. I don't have the answer. But I do know that the Jewish people are more united than ever to end this evil. And we're not going to let this war end without us having our security back. So the people are going to win this. The spirit of the Jewish people is strong, despite what you're hearing in the news, despite what you're hearing from former generals and former IDF chiefs of staffs, and from Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenstock and Yair Lapid and Merav Michaeli, all failed, surrendering elected leaders. They're not leaders. They're failures of leadership. And Netanyahu is left with all these people that he has to work with. Gantz and Eisenstock are in the war cabinet in order that there would be a unification of the Jewish people so that left and right would be together on the public level. But they're in the war cabinet and they are poodles. So they're holding him back. And he too is walking on a tightrope of having to push off American pressure. And because like Netanyahu does say, we're always going to remain in the Gaza Strip. Israel must remain total in control of the Gaza Strip, right? Because Biden wants to create a state called Palestine as a reward for Hamas and its horrific, evil atrocities, and pressuring Israel to pull out all IDF forces and end the war. So Netanyahu was walking a tightrope. He goes, yes, we want to end the war, but Israel's going to remain. The IDF is going to remain in the Gaza Strip. So Netanyahu's walking a tightrope. But part of that tightrope is not just the pressure from America, it is the weak, horrific unleadership of Gantz and Eisenstock in the war cabinet. And again, they have to be there so that on the public level there will be unity, because if they wouldn't be in the government, then all of the horrendous, demoralizing media from the establishment media, which is horrendous today, would be even worse, even more dividing the nation, because then on a political level, the left would not be part of the war government. You understand that? So it is good that they're in the government right now, because at least on a public level, there is unity between right and left, but them being in the war cabinet is horrendous, because they're just poodles. So Netanyahu has to deal with the pressure from America and the internal pressure of this immoral progressive left that basically wants to surrender. And that's Gantz and Eisenstock. And that's besides Yair Lapid, who's in the opposition, same thing. So these are our challenges. Not simple. Not simple times. But I don't want you to be depressed or demoralized. Because Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people are alive. The Jewish people are fighting for our survival. And this is the place to be. Because we're going to win this. Because the Jewish people are not going to let this war end without us winning this. So I want you to be positive. I'm just here giving you the rational breakdown of our reality that is not being given across anywhere else. So stick with me at The Pulse of Israel. If you are not yet a subscriber at thepulseofisrael.com, go, click, and subscribe. And if you believe this instance, the information that I give you at The Pulse of Israel, the inspiring, politically incorrect truth, and even though sometimes it is depressing, I am giving you the inspiring truth, because at the end of the day, we are going to win. How, when, I can't tell you, but the Jewish people are going to win, so stick with us. Pray for the Jewish people. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed. Stay with us. And if you're a Jew, come home and be here with us. These are Geula redemptive times. Things are bad just as the prophets told us they would be bad before redemptive times. We will get out of this. We will win. The Jewish people are going to win with our faith in the one above and by standing up for ourselves with the gun. So we're going to win. So if you want others to also be able to hear and internalize the inspiring, politically incorrect truth that we give you at the Pulse of Israel, well, help us reach more people. Just click on the donate button on pulseofisrael.com every once in a while. In the meantime, pray for all our holy IDF soldiers who are on the front line endangering their lives for the whole freedom-loving world. Shalom, everyone. And thanks for watching. Signing off another episode during my break from IDF reserve duty here in the beautiful, ancestral, eternal capital, indivisible capital of the Jewish people since King David's time, Jerusalem. in our Holy Land, ancestral indigenous homeland, Israel. Shalom, everyone.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.